when our daughter was between 4 and 5 years old, I noticed that her right eye was crossing, and had that checked out by the doctor. They sent me to an eye doctor, and they checked it out and explained that when her eye would cross, it would actually cut out her vision, and that there was something going on with that eye. I've heard it called different things, lazy eye or different things like that, but what they ended up doing is putting glasses on her, and they were pretty substantial glasses, and she would go every 3 months maybe to see the doctor, and they would run her through all kinds of tests, blanking out one eye and blanking out the other eye, and then having her point at things and look at things and identify things, and test her vision. And we did that for quite a while. They would send us home sometimes with a patch the good eye, make her right eye do the looking or the focusing, and this went on for at least 2 years, and nothing really changed. They didn't change her prescription. They just kind of gave us different ideas of things to do. And it was somewhere, so if she was between 4 and 5, then she was 6 or 7, and there was a prayer meeting at our church, and it was a nighttime prayer meeting, and my husband was not there. Our oldest son wasn't there, so I just had the 2 younger ones, including our daughter Amy. And what they did at one point during this prayer meeting is they handed out a list of everybody in the congregation to those who were there and said, now just go off by yourself and pray for the people in our congregation. And I looked at my kids and I thought, there's no way I'm letting them go off by themselves. So I told them they were with me. And so we went up. We have a school associated with our church, and so I went up to the school building because I figured we could find a quiet spot there, and we did, in a doorway. So we just kind of sat in the hallway in a doorway, and we were sitting on the floor. And we were getting ready to pray, and there was all kinds of racket going on further down the hallway, because there had been a bunch of kids that went up there to pray without any supervision. And they were trying to do their best, but they were noisy, and every once in a while I just shh. And so finally this group came around the corner and they said, we're so sorry. We're not trying to be noisy. Would you mind if we joined you for prayer? And I'm like, well, no problem. Join us. So suddenly it went from myself and my 2 kids to a whole group of kids. And I didn't need my list of the congregation anymore because they were represented in the kids that were there. And so we went around praying for each family and concerns that the kids had for their families. And my daughter, Amy, had said to me, would you ask them if they would pray that I don't have to have glasses? And I really don't want to have glasses. And so I spoke up for her and I said, Amy's asking if you all would pray that she doesn't have to have glasses anymore. She really doesn't want to have glasses. And at this point, we had not seen any kind of change in her eyes, no change in prescription. So, and I knew we were due to go see the doctor again. It was either that week or the following week we were headed to the doctor's office. And so the kids prayed, and it was probably from age 5 or 6 to junior high would probably be the top. Probably the majority were in between there, maybe more, maybe 3rd through 6th grade was probably the majority of the group. But boy, did these kids pray. And they prayed for Amy. They prayed for her healing, and they prayed that she wouldn't have to have glasses, and they really prayed. That's all I can say. They knew how to pray, and they did it. So we finished going around the group and praying for all the families and the kids. It was a pretty awesome time, actually. I I was the only adult that was privileged to be there and to be with the kids, and what an awesome opportunity. So that night ended, and was a week or two later that we went to the doctor's office, which we had been to numerous times. We knew the whole routine. They would send in an assistant to the doctor. She'd come in and she'd do all this testing. She'd go out, and the doctor would come in and talk to us. But that's not what happened this time. She came in, the assistant came in, and she ran Amy through a bunch of tests. She went back out. She came back in. She ran her back through a couple more tests. She went out. The doctor came in. He ran her through a few tests. He went out. And then a few minutes later, he came back in. And he, instead of sitting across from me, he sat next to me, and he sat there, and he goes, and he really said, it took him a while to get any words out. Let me just say, and I'm like, yes, and he said, I can't explain this. I said, explain what? He said, well, there's no way in the world that I would have expected Amy's eyes to improve without surgery. Now, this is the first time surgery had been mentioned to me, so I kind of went off on it in my mind on a tangent going, surgery? Nobody's ever said anything to me about her having surgery. But he said, he goes, I can't explain it, but something has happened. And she is not going to need surgery. And we're going to change her prescription, and we're just going to lessen her prescription and start her on the process of being without glasses. And I finally got my voice after having gotten lost on the idea of surgery. And I said, well, I can tell you what happened. So I told him about the kids and about the kids praying, and that she didn't want to wear glasses all of her life, and that they had prayed this. And he said, well, I'm not going to discount that because I can't explain it any other way. And so we were from that point on the process. Each time we would come in, they would lessen her prescription, and until I think she was in somewhere around between 9 and 10, and he tested her eyes. He came in, talked to her, and he said, Amy, throw those glasses away. Tell your mom you don't need them anymore. Just throw them away. And we were both like, wow. And as we left that office that day, as we're walking down the hallway to get to the lobby area, the doctor's down the hall, and he's saying to his staff, see that little girl right there? There's no way in the world I would have ever said she would leave here without having surgery. And she doesn't have to wear her glasses anymore. And that was our last interaction with that doctor, and he knew a miracle had happened. Somehow I knew that was going to be important to Amy in her future, that she would need to know that God could do miracles and could heal.
In September 2023, our son started having seizures every half hour around the clock. And so we started doing all the tests, EEGs, MRIs, all the things. The pediatric neurologist had us start a medication. The seizures continued, started another medication, didn't make much difference, if any, and this just kept going. So fast forward to July of 24, I had wanted to go to Children's Hospital, but our insurance wouldn't allow it. But that's just where all of my mom research had showed me that would be ideal. They have a whole team that works together. It's not one neurologist calling the shots, but they wouldn't take out of pocket, and so we had not been able to see them. But in June, we had genetic testing done, and found out that it was a genetic disorder. And so then our insurance escalated the case, and we were able to go to Children's Hospital and have that covered. And it was July 19th. It was my husband and my 10th wedding anniversary. And I was excited because I'm thinking, we're at Children's Hospital. We're going to get someplace finally. Like, they're going to help us. Because these seizures had gotten worse, and they had stayed consistent as far as timing of still every half hour. And in walks two specialists, and my initial thought was, all right, if they wouldn't let us pay out of pocket to see one, this seems heavier now that we're taking the time of two. And so it just kind of shifted a bit for me, and they proceeded to tell us, with our son in the room, who by this time had stopped speaking and was just a ball of energy, in this little room. And he was all over us. He was hands up on the walls and practically on our heads, and that's just how he was at this time. Mentally like a 3-year-old. He understood us, but just very, very small is how he acted. And so with him in the room, and these two specialists tell us that it's a genetic disorder, and it's called POLG, P-O-L-G, and it's well known in the genetic community, and there's no cure. There's 6 months to 12 years to live. There's 6 months to 12 years to live. We did not know any of this, and as you can imagine, it was quite a shock. So we're trying to wrap our heads around this. And then they tell us there's a 50% chance any of your other biological children will also have this. And we were just in shock, and we left. And I remember on the way home, I called my dad and I said, Dad, I need you to be at my house when I get home. I need you to come pray with us. And when we got home, my dad and my mom and one of my dad's good friends and one of my brothers was at our house, and they prayed for us. And they prayed for Isaiah, and they prayed that he would be healed. Because that's what we wanted. We wanted him healed.
The day after they received the diagnosis, their family was scheduled to leave on vacation. They went knowing this might be their family's last vacation together. They sent some photographs to us, and even though they smiled in some of the pictures, I felt like I could still see the pain and struggle behind those smiles.
We took him to a healing service because we found out that there was one happening, and I believe in miracles. I grew up in a church that believed in healings, believed in that Jesus still does miracles today, and so a specific healing service, let's go. And we took him, and they prayed, and we left, and he seemed the same. And about 2 weeks later, he started having less seizures, and just little things changed. He looked into our eyes. He actually made eye contact. There was a 15-minute time frame where he actually sat on the floor and played Legos with my husband, which 15 minutes of stillness was unheard of at that point. And my husband came out of the room and was just crying, and just in believing he could be healed, and yet knowing that healing is not often the answer this side of heaven. Healing is always the answer, but it's often not this side of heaven. And we've seen so many that don't get the answer that they want, and they turn away from the Lord and just lose their faith. And so, in essence, I feel like we put horse blinders on to the fact that God is good, and He is not good because we have a good life and an easy life, or we get to keep what we think is ours. He is good because that is His character, and He can be nothing else. And so even if we lose our son. Even if he goes home, we're going to declare him good. And we just focused on that.
It's hard to see, but the shirt that Amy is wearing says "even if" and Daniel 3:18. It's from the section where the king threatens Daniel's 3 friends with being thrown into the fiery furnace. They tell him that they know their God can save them, but even if he doesn't, they still won't bow down to the king's idol.
At this time, we were also fostering twins, and we had a 6-year-old daughter, and I look back and I think, how did we do every day? But it's just the Lord's grace. And we stayed focused on him. And so he started to improve. We still have horse blinders on to what we felt was reality of we have to keep all of these kids alive, and it's too much if you just stop and think about the projection that everyone is giving us. It's too much, and so we just stayed focused on the day and on the goodness of God. And so we started seeing improvements, but we just said, thank you, Lord. And we just took them as small gifts. My son looked in his eyes, and I think he actually was in there. I think I actually saw him. We got to play Legos. He played with his sister for a few minutes, because that was the hardest part. I think not even that he was going to die, but that we felt like we'd already lost him. He's almost 8 and just a really cool kid. And so he was creative and kind and everything that I wanted in a firstborn, in a son. He was just everything that I wanted, and now he's gone. I'm telling you, mentally like a 3-year-old. Couldn't trust him to walk to the mailbox. And I don't even know what we talked to him about last, and you're telling me this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. He's only going to decline. And so we were grateful when we started seeing increase and not decrease. But nothing had changed as far as the doctors were concerned. And so we just kept moving forward. And his seizures kept getting less and less. And we had genetic testing done because there was a 50% chance that our daughter was going to also have it. And because they wanted more for their own data. And so I got a call. We foster, so I answer a lot of numbers that I don't have. I'm terrible with names and faces, but I'm really good with voices. And so when I answered this call, I immediately recognized the voice as the genetic specialist who we'd only met one time at St. Louis Children's Hospital. And as soon as I heard her voice, in my heart I just said, she does not determine the outcome. And so whatever she says will not crush me, because I know who holds tomorrow. And his days are already numbered. And so she said, after we, say hello, and she said, I have really good news for you. And I said, that's not what I was expecting to hear from her. And she said, Isaiah has 3 variants in his DNA. One's from you, one's from your husband, and one we can't explain. I said, okay. And she says, Miriam doesn't have any. And I said, praise the Lord, that is amazing news. I thought that was the good news. That was amazing news. And then she said, and Isaiah doesn't have Pol G. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And she tried to explain it to me, and I said, so I'm not medical. Can you tell me a different way? And so she tried to explain it in a different way. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm understanding here. And I look back and I think, we were seeing his healing, and we knew we were seeing increase, which they said that we wouldn't see. And we were praying for healing, and we fully believed that God could. But again, that's not often what we see. And so even, and just dumbfounded that we had received the healing. It was like I knew, but her confirmation was too much. And so finally she says, I can't fully explain this, because I said, no, we saw the disease. He has it. We've seen every characteristic of this disease. And she said, yes, we cannot explain this. There's a 1% chance of this happening. And I said, well, let me tell you about my Jesus, because he works in the 1%. And Isaiah is speaking. He is back to his creative, fun self. He's in school, and we are overjoyed, and we just are declaring the goodness of God.